The latest and greatest addition here is the arcade system that we built with sponsorships with WTI. So great build, a lot of fun. The entire build was around this device here. This is a Pandora's box, so it comes already with the buttons and the controls with the games built in. So we built a cabinet around this box. Everything else is simple. Cheapy speakers from Amazon, a monitor I picked up at Goodwill for 15 bucks. Believe it or not, these graphics is just wallpaper for a kid's room. Put on all sides except for the back. And the trim here was easy enough as well. It's just push-on style U-channel rubber trim. Really easy to push on, kind of get that nice arcade look, finished look. The marquee here, just a little LED light right behind there, all wired in with the machine. And this is actually just sandwiched in acrylic. The marquee itself is only 15 bucks on eBay. There's a couple different sellers that have multiple different marquee styles for whichever game. We went with the Avengers theme, so the whole thing is set up for Marvel. But as you can see here, there's just many games that you can go through. All the classics, 2,200 of them. Put together your plan. There's many plans online for different styles. Make sure whichever one you pick is going to fit in the space that you have, and it'll fit the equipment you're gathering. Get all your stuff together. All these things will be in the description video, but again, this entire build is built around a Pandora's box shown in front. Once you have your design laid out, you can go ahead and start cutting your plywood. I used 1/2 inch 4x8 foot pieces. What I'm doing here is my overall height of the arcade was 6 feet. I cut off a 4 foot by 2 foot section of that 4x8. Then I ripped it down the middle, giving me two 2 foot by 6 foot pieces. I then laid the 2 foot by 6 foot pieces one over the other because these would be the walls of my arcade, lightly tacked them, and then drew out my arcade design from the side. This is a side profile. So what this does is I'm going to cut out both pieces at the same time, giving me perfectly equal side pieces for my arcade. Again, these are the side profile pieces. Make sure everything is level and it's how you want it, because when you cut it, you're cutting both out at the same time. I used a Forester bit to round out some of the cornering so that when I used my circular saw, I wouldn't have to overcut it to get it to cut through, and it would already have a perfect round corner. Both side pieces are cut. They're perfectly even because they were cut at the same time, and now it's time to create the rest of the arcade, the box and framing. So I did that by attaching 2x4 to the inside of either profile or the outside walls. That way I could attach the sides, bottom, and front to that framing. So they were just glued and nailed and then held in place until done. The front and back panels were sized and nailed on, leaving the top of the back section cut so that it could be removed to get to the electronics later. So we can see here it's starting to become a stand-up arcade. Now I'm installing the bottom plate. Notice that the side panels of the arcade come down further than the base. That's so that the push-on molding can come around on that edge, on the edge of the outside walls, and also to hide the feet that we're going to be installing. You drill holes and you tap them into place. The feet for the arcade screw into those. It's time to dry fit the Pandora's box and setting it into the arcade frame that we have built. You'll notice that there's framing there to accept the screen area as well. And that's going to be a box built around a regular computer monitor, and that will attach to those brackets on the inside walls above the Pandora box. The amplifier for the speakers is right there underneath the box as well. Later, all the wiring will be done from the back access hatch. Here we've created a simple enclosure around the computer monitor that attaches to the back of it to hold it in place, and then this is then attached to the arcade and set in just above the Pandora's box. Here's everything dry fit into the framing. It's almost complete. The Pandora's box sits in there nicely. The screen is set up well. Both speakers fit. This is the side view of the box. This is before a lot of the rounding of the corners has been done, and it's about ready for paint. Time to fit in your LED light for your backlight of the marquee. Once all your corners have been rounded, everything's been dry fit appropriately, and anything that needs to be taped off has been taped off. Give it a nice coat of paint so that the graphics that you're going to glue to the arcade itself will stick nicely. Again, what I use for the graphics is just wallpaper for a child's room that I found on eBay, very cheap, few bucks, and it was double-sided glued to all sides except for the back, just using a spray glue. So the spray glue was first applied to the cabinet itself, it was applied to the back of the wallpaper, and then applied on with a squeegee to make sure it didn't have any air bubbles within it. Then the excess was cut to give it a nice clean look. Remember, the edge will be hidden by the push-on molding. Here's the molding we're using. It's a 1/2-inch push-on molding that is rubber with a metal inner for strength. We're applying the molding here to the back from the bottom up and all the way around back to the bottom, as simple as tapping it on with a rubber mallet, making sure not to mess up the decals. At this point, it's essentially finished. We're removing the back plate to show that everything has been wired up appropriately. Very simple, just used a regular power strip to plug everything into. The Pandora's box has the information on hooking it up to a TV or computer monitor, and it's easy to set up and wire. So here's the finished product. The marquee has been sandwiched between two pieces of cheap acrylic you can buy from Home Depot and attached using screws. Pre-drill the acrylic before you attach it, and here is the arcade from all sides. So with the molding and the graphics, it looks pretty great, and it's as simple as dropping in the Pandora's box with the rest of the donor equipment that you can find at a Goodwill, like the monitor and small speakers. Overall, the entire build was less than $400, depending on how much you can get the Pandora's box for, and the monitor, speakers, marquee, and then the rough materials from Amazon and Home Depot. List of those things will be in the description. And there you have it, a very simple build with limited knowledge of electronics and basic construction tools you probably already own.